The religion is a package.
Majority of Christian villages have been emptied. How much evidence of intent is enough before we can acknowledge that this is a religious genocide?
We have a very high and unhealthy religious consciousness to the extent that we don't even have emotional intelligence.
The story of security in Nigeria is telling no good news anywhere right now. And the questions on the heart of many Nigerians now is whether religion has become a security threat, with reports showing that in 2025 alone, 7,000 Christians have been killed. But amidst these reports and statistics, there is a divide that still claims that the insecurity is a national crisis and not a sectarian one. But a more dramatic divide emerged when the US President Trump announced a possible military intervention in northern Nigeria to stop what he described as genocide against Christians. And of course, this led to a government that had been largely silent on the genocide debate pushing back with speed. They released statements and mounted a lot of defenses, insisting that the violence in Nigeria was not religious, but rather general insecurity. So there is indeed a lot to discuss today, and taking me through this discussion is Ismail Misbahu, an independent researcher in history, security, and social transformation. It's a pleasure to have you on the program today. How are you doing?
I'm fine, Precious, and my pleasure to meet you. Very happy for joining.
Thank you so much. All right, so let's get right into it. And before we go too deep into the discussion of today, I want to just get, first of all, your general overview of the situation of insecurity in Nigeria right now. What do you think is the biggest driver of the current insecurity that we see, especially in the northern part of the country?
Yeah. I think, Precious, I just have maybe two issues that I see, challenges or problems you are facing in northern Nigeria in particular, and in the country as a whole. And this is the question of poor leadership and injustice. Yeah, I don't know how we have gotten it this very bad, but we have inherited poor leadership and injustice that refuse to, or that has failed to desensitize religious sensitivity. A poor leadership and injustice that has failed to normalize ethnic consciousness. And these have resulted in recently, when we get back to history, you see that these are the results for that led to 50th June coup, 1966. And the same thing that resulted to Nigerian civil war, the same thing that led to the separatist agitations like Biafra, and the same thing that led to ethno-religious conflict in the 1980s and in the 1990s, and even in 2000s. I think there is problem. Sometimes when you talk about ethnic and religious questions, that these are normal day speeches. Beyond that, because they are always bringing something new and different. And we have to be very critical about this. I think every Nigerian has to be very critical. We have a very high and unhealthy religious consciousness to the extent that we don't even have emotional intelligence. We don't have communication literacy. We don't even have tolerance literacy, because even tolerance has a literacy. The way we talk is getting on very bad. Anytime that we are going to use as officials, or as non-state actors, or as students, or researchers, or whatever it is you call yourself, you should know what you are going to say, because Nigeria is a mixed country. But we allow this consciousness to go on, and politicians are using it to exploit people. They have their own interests, but any politician needs a cover. Certainly, he needs a cover, whether it's religious cover or ethnic cover or tribal, whatever you call it, because he wants to win elections and promote his own personal interest. So when you look at the whole thing,
You're
you see
getting to you're getting to at least the major point of what we want to discuss. Because now you believe that. So what from what I can see from what you're saying is that we are majoring on what is not exactly the cause. For you, the cause is leadership and not the religious aspect of things. And I actually want us to get into that because I know you wrote an article on this, and I want us to spotlight some of the things that you said in the article to give us a better understanding of your view. And now, one of your major arguments is that the violence isn't limited to Christians alone, but that, it also involves Muslims as well. But, when you look at the statistics, I mean, looking between 2019 to 2023, we have 17,000 Christians that have been killed, and in comparison to 6,200 Muslims. So yes, are Muslims dying? Definitely, but it's more of a ratio of 7.6 to 1. And when we adjust these numbers, for the populations that are in the affected regions, we arrive at that particular ratio. So how do we reconcile with this claim that the violence is not disproportionately targeted at the Christians, or that the Christians are simply collateral damage? Because what you're saying now is that we're highly religious conscious, but the reason why we are religiously conscious about this is because the ones that are disproportionately affected are the Christians. It's what is before our eyes. So how do we reconcile the reality of what we see and these statistics to you saying that it's not about the religious side of things? How do you put that forward and defend that position?
Yeah, I think you have your own viewpoint, and you have talked well, and I think it is very important for us to be keeping statistics of the people that have been killed as a result of what we call religious violence or religious conflict, or whatever we call it. But I think we always need to be sensitive of the context, and sometimes when we stick to talk of the statistic, the reality you talk about regarding the figures you have mentioned, which is already currently being contested by a lot of other individuals, from the Muslim side, and even research, even international experts on security, they are contesting their figures. The figures are coming from different sources. I don't think we have a very unified source.
So are you saying the figures are inaccurate? You're saying the figures that we have are inaccurate?
Probably they may be inaccurate, given the fact that we do have other sources that mention different figures. So certainly, I think
of course, they're different figures, but when you look at it, the essence of those statistics now is to show that there is a disproportionate ratio between the amount of Christians that are suffering from this and the Muslims. So it's not even, of course, the figures cannot be exact, that's for sure. But the story it tells is that the effect is disproportionate. So how do we defend that and say we can't look at this religiously? I mean, from a religious point of view.
Yeah, so fine. Let us be fair to ourselves, because sometimes you see when you talk about figures, definitely everybody who knows Nigeria and knows northern Nigeria quite all right will tell you that northern Nigerians are not keeping record of the statistics of people that have been killed. You get the point. So the fact that there is void in that regard does not guarantee that the proportion, the figures that another religious proof will come out is certain, must be accepted, must be true. So that is the point. But the issue of religious one, it is not really the religion is a facade. Recently, I will just have finished conducting a fieldwork research for the Utrecht University, I think a few years ago, and we were trying to emphasize that religion can be used to promote peace. That is, if it is peace we want, but it can also be manipulated in various ways, just like the way we are seeing. If you check the questions of religions now, just like the other question of your Muslim ticket, you see this is a case sensitive. When you take a look on northern Nigeria, where you see that there is so much affiliation of religion to ancestry, there is so much affiliation of religion to tribe, because a lot of Nigerian, both Muslim and Christian, were born into the religion. It is not necessary that somebody has to go deep into seeking knowledge about what does that particular religion says. We grow up seeing your mom, your dad is Christian, your mom, your dad is Muslim, and you just follow the religion. And if you come to the Southwest, for instance, you see among the Yorubas, a tribe or blood relationship is a priority number one before religion. And that's why they mix. You see cousins, uncles, brothers and sisters, Muslim and Christian living in the same compound. And that's why when you talk about a Muslim ticket, I see when I look at where the president is coming from, this is discounted. Except it is the consciousness that is still working, because we have unhealthy consciousness. That's why we are even talking about Muslim ticket, because the president is from an environment where it accommodates Christian and Muslim living together without, this too much consciousness. There is no more distraction in that respect. But because it is Muslim ticket, it answers these Muslim names, so it has become an issue. But certainly there is nothing issue about it. So far as I know, up to now, since when the president came to power, he has never ever come with any agenda that is Islamic or let's say religious in nature.
Okay, I want you to remember that now the focus of this is these current killings, that is happening. And from what you're saying now is that, okay, what we are terming as genocide is more of a political agenda. That's what I can get from what you're saying. But now when we try to assess what exactly genocide means, it's a deliberate intent to destroy a particular group of people. And we have documented cases, and you can see the video playing. This was a church. While service was going on, they came into the church and they attacked them, kidnapped some people. So we've had churches burned. We've had a lot of Christian leaders assassinated. And, majority of Christian villages have been emptied. How much evidence of intent is enough before we can acknowledge that this is a religious genocide, where we clearly see that Christian institutions are targeted? Just last week, we had about 300 students that were kidnapped from a Christian secondary school. So when exactly can we term it genocide? Does it have to be more figures of Christians dying or of Muslims dying? What exactly would make it genocide if you say what we have now is not a genocidal attack on the Christian community?
Okay, yeah, let me accept it as a genocide, for instance, as a targeted killings against, let's say, Christians. It is evident, it is there, it existed. Nobody disputes that. But what we are saying, the patterns of killings against Christians, wherever it occurs, you hardly find that there is no such kind of pattern in northern Nigeria against them. So when Boko Haram started, in fact, they started killing Muslims. In fact, Muslim religious clerics, and it was targeted killings. It was intentional, because Muhammad Yusuf was busy going around to meet other religious. I have interviewed a lot of religious leaders who interacted with Muhammad Yusuf before. Some of them hide their names because he met them. He was trying to convince them to accept his doctrine, and those who refused were facing a lot of threats to killings, and he was threatening their lives and so forth. Even the killings, we talk of figures. If you go down to the grassroots level now, you interview both Christian and Muslim leaders. We know most of them who were trying to promote it, and they have documented a lot of evidence regarding the figures of Muslims and the Christians, and they have unanimity and understanding based on that. But because those who promote this agenda, these are Christian diaspora, who I don't think they know.
So you're saying that the people who promote the agenda of genocide,
these are people who don't even care about their fellow Christians back home. You get my point? These are people who just maybe, because I don't have evidence to support that, they have personal interest regarding what they are saying. But I don't think they have ever been to any grassroots level and engaged with religious leaders at the grassroots level and hear from them before they even call for whatever assistance they were calling for. So what we are saying, anytime there is thing like that, we don't have to confine or restrict ourselves a discussion that will not provide any solution. We need to ask critical questions. That's why I say we are even having a problem of critical thinking literacy. We allow sentiment to overtake us. We need to dig deeper. This is Nigeria. Let's accept it. Yes, Christians are right. When we talk about the question of perpetrators, for instance, we agree that they are Fulani. We agree that Fulani answer the names of Muslims. We agree most of them are coming from northern Nigeria. But the question is should narrow down to the victimhood, to the victims. If you talk of Christians as the victims alone, then what with the Muslims? Are there no victims among the Muslims? What is the proportional number that we are talking about? Disproportionate figures and so on and so forth of the issue. Because we have a country where, to be fair to all of us, Christians have been documenting those who have killed from their own, from most of their areas compared to Muslims. And this is a fact. But these local narratives is what we need to dig deeper and investigate and come up with. There are a lot of figures that have not been documented, have not been desired, have not been put to the internet. People cannot access them. They are in private hands, religious leaders at grassroots level. I have been to Southern Kaduna, I have been to Plateau State. I interacted with a lot of these local religious leaders, and I can tell you, the way the atmosphere is going out there within the United States and even within Nigeria is quite different. I mean, the official view about this killing is quite different from the local ones. You go there, they know themselves. Both Christians and Muslims, they are working tirelessly. I don't know why we have to do this when most of these killings are taking place in mostly rural communities. We don't want to go there. We like to pick official narrative because we just want to come and create confusion and so on and so forth. You see a lot of NGOs now going around talking about forgive and forget. They call it to FF or FF something like that. Forgive and forget. You can't forgive and forget killings in Plateau State, for instance, or somewhere else when someone cannot tolerate. Even tolerance as a literacy. Because of this conscious, you go to Abuja because you are a Hausa or you are another tribes, and Igbo man will come and tell you, especially in the market located in the ghettos, within the settlement of the FCT, someone will come and tell you, this is not your space, you have to pay tax. And this space, nobody assigned you to do that. If there is no tolerance, how can we forgive and forget? And this is what is recycling now. People don't want to remember history. And history is inevitable. When you ask a particular killing, then you need to go back to see what are the triggers, what are the cons and all that. We don't just accept things as it comes because it comforts us. This is the issue. I share a lot with the instructors I work with regarding the view of the figures of people killed in Kafanchan, in Zampoa, in Bokos, in Plateau State, in Bassa. You get the point. And even some of the local communities where before they were a mix of Christian and Muslim, but now they have been divided. And their report, the policy brief, have come very clear to go to discount this issue of Christian genocide we are talking about. And these people are Christians.
Okay, so now, as much as you say that this violence is, and I mean, I get where you're coming from as well, but I also want to look at another perspective as well, because as much as we'll say this violence is not religiously inspired, it seems as though most of the people defending these, I don't know if they're terrorists, because some people have come out and say they're not terrorists, others have said they're forest rangers, a lot of narratives, but most of these people who are attacking the Christians, and then, I mean, rather, most of the people that are defending these people that are committing this violence or perpetrating this violence are Muslims. For instance, we had one that actually caught my attention was that of Sheikh Ahmad Gumi, who on national TV, he publicly justified that the kidnapping of the children and, saying that the bandits only want money. And so he was asking Nigerians to be fair to them, even in some case compared them to the Nnamdi Kanu case, which I'm going to get to. But when you look at it, it seems, I mean, when you have a sheikh come out to say that kind of thing and is justifying what they're doing and saying that all they want is money, so we should be fair to them. What kind of narrative does that put forward, considering the number of people that have died? And also, there was also another influencer, I can't remember her name, but she's a Muslim, and she also came out to say something along those lines, that they are miners from a forest, and then the reason why they're coming out is because they're not being properly taken care of by the government or something like that. So I want to get your thoughts on that. First of all, what exactly do you think is driving the attacks from this terrorist? And then also looking at the fact that it is mostly, you know, Muslim people that are defending them and coming out to say we need to protect them rather than have them punished for what they are perpetrating. What are your thoughts on that particular situation?
Well, there is a lot, and I think sometimes we try to do fair to peoples and individuals. My method, what I believe in the way I do things, is sometimes if I get confused, I used to reach to the person and maybe ask him questions. For instance, Sheikh Ahmad Abakar Gumi, we all know that he has been saying a lot of things, and even some of us Muslims are not happy with that, given what he has been saying previously. And there has been a lot of course regarding what he has saying, what he has said, and what he is currently, in fact, he's still saying about bandit, because people see him as a sympathizer to bandit and all the bloody terrorists we are talking about. But I think anybody who is following him or who is aware of what he has been saying, I think he come very clear this time around to articulate his view. But I can't say maybe if that is really what is in his mind. And this is why the intricacy is. And there is a limit to how I can assess his views in this context. I mean, in this interaction. Yeah.
But do you agree with it though? Do you agree that they should be protected rather than punished?
Let me get you, Tony. This is a personal case, but I can talk generally about sympathizing with terrorists. I don't want to symbolize anything like Sheikh Ahmad Abubakar Gumi in this respect, because he has his personal view. Anybody who wants to get accurate, his accurate intention, I think he can still reach out to him. But I can talk my personal opinion on being sympathetic, or let me just call it kinetic or non-kinetic approaches to all these kind of things, is that I don't always believe with the kinetic approach. And I don't always believe with the non-kinetic approach. If bandits is arrested red-handed, he should be killed. I believe we shall fight in this regard. But you should not forget the fact that there is problem in Nigeria, especially among the security agencies, in respect to their method and the process of arresting them. There are a lot of complexities regarding whether the person arrested is really the perpetrator, or he is in this complexity of victim-perpetrator syndrome. Because we have seen a lot of local lawyers who may have, a case might be brought to them for interrogation, but at the end of the day, they will be the one to support the bandit unconsciously or consciously, because sometimes it will come to them as a family matter. And the fact that I know you as a lawyer, I may cover you, and you can give me even the, in fact, they engage in the ransom businesses. And it is very difficult for us to figure them out because the thing is very complex. But when there is a proper procedure for understanding who is really the perpetrator, I don't see any reason that someone will come and be sympathizing with them. They should be killed because they are killing people. It's the truth about it. Yes, I have this as an opinion. Yeah.
Okay.
And you see,
okay, let me just let you make your point. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just saying that you talk of what is at least triggering these killings and why these people are doing. There are a lot of things. I don't think a single factor will explain that. Yeah, we can see them terrorists. We can see a lot of things. You can hear a lot of narratives and so on and so forth. But we always ask critical questions and see what is going on. In Southern Kaduna, I have interviewed a lot of Christians who were victims of Fulani killings, kidnapping, and even collection of ransom. But I share the views of some of them who were saying that there is no way someone who is living in the forest will come down to attack them without the perpetration of an insider. And this is why the complexity of the perpetrators, and they claim that some of their perpetrators are Christian. In fact, because they collected 3,500 naira, highest 10,000, they are showing, their community members, this and that has money, or this, and a lot of perception regarding someone's possession and so forth. And they go against the person and attack the person. At the end of the day, they pay the informer, whatever it is. And this is the general trend everywhere.
Yeah.
But then you also have to dig deeper about why are these people, Fulani, who were living in forest communities, who everybody who knows Nigeria and knows them in the past 20, 25 years, or even more than that, they had been interacting with Christian neighbors, Christian communities, more than even the Muslims. And what we don't want to hear is the fact that because a Fulani man answers Muslim name wherever he is, does not suggest the fact that he is a Muslim. I'm not saying that.
Okay, thank you very much. We're
I'm not saying that the
out of
perpetrators are
time.
Christian.
Yeah, I understand. We're almost running out of time, but I still want to ask a few more questions, and I want us to touch a bit on the announcement by Trump for possible military intervention in Nigeria. Of course, that sparked a lot of reaction. So, in your view, is there any legitimate cause for Trump's call for military intervention in the northern Nigeria? From the positive, what could be the positive or the negative effect if that happens?
Legitimate calls for that, really, yes, I accept that, but it should be diplomatic. It should be handled by the Nigerian government, because we are a sovereign nation. We do not exist as confederations or a group of confederations where a religious leader will go and say he needs, and we can do that because if we have victims alone, we believe that some of our religious group members are being killed for nothing else. We can seek assistance, but then we have government, and there are a lot of protocols. You don't just because you are living in a particular country and you have the access of the United States president and you just go and submit to him that this is really what happened, and the president will just back up by saying he is going to attack this, attack that, and so forth. Because the way the statement was going on is that it is Christians are being killed under the watch of Muslim religious leadership, which is quite wrong.
But isn't that
but
the
when
reality,
you say Muslim terrorist, fine. The issue that we can ask clarity for is how you define Muslim terrorist. If you say Fulani, the issue that we can ask clarity for how you define Fulani. But if you say under the watch of Muslim religious leadership, I don't think you are fair to the Muslim communities. Who, even the number of the victims is higher compared to the Christians. If you are to dig the evidence available, that is the issue. Nobody saying we don't need assistance, but we have to do it diplomatically in a way that should be protected, in a way that should be rational, in a way that should be realistic. Nigeria needs assistance, at the end of not only from the US.
Okay. Just as we wrap up, at the end of the day, what do you believe is the way forward from this crisis? Just your final thoughts on that.
I think we have to narrow it down to the question of justice. We should try to avoid selective justice.
Okay.
You get the point, because most of what we are doing at state and federal level is when a perpetrator of killing is a perpetrator of killing and he belongs to the tribe or ethnic group of the governor or the chairman or the council, whatever, is going to be better. And that is the issue. That's why I narrowed down everything to the question of ethnic and religious consciousness. I know it is there. People see this as simple as it is not simple as we think of. Everything narrows around that. Even in MD is doing this, you see, it is because of high consciousness of ethnicity. He still thinks that he has the right claim of being a Biafran, of calling a Biafra as a nation. Because not only IPOC, but even MASOF, even Biafra Zionist Federation, BZF, they were hosting flags in 2014 in Enugu State Government houses. Not only there, but in marketplaces and even in churches in Nigeria. To the extent that police had to confront them. You see the cases are there. So I don't know why we will talk about him, he is being pressurized or something compared to other protesters. What he's doing is not different from the definition the international community is giving about terrorism.
Really, but I mean,
The
you can't
same way
compare.
they
How many
are
people has
hoisting
he
flags,
killed
the same way
compared to
Boko Haram
this
is hoisting
Boko
flags in the
Haram?
northeast.
But I mean, you can't compare, for instance, the Boko Haram to the Nnamdi Kanu. The Boko Haram terrorists, when they were caught, they were reintegrated into the society. Some of them joined the military. But now, looking at the case of Nnamdi Kanu, he was given a life sentence. How do you really measure that kind of justice system? And for you to say he's not different from these terrorists?
What you see, I don't know how you can take him out of the international community's definition of terrorism, especially like the Council of Foreign Relations, the CFR. There is nothing like that because this is intentional and he's targeting government institutions, he's targeting individuals. You can't go to a state government house and raise a flag and you call for a separate nation and you don't have to assume being a terrorist. The same way Boko Haram was hoisting flags, Muhammad Yusuf Shekau, and whatever, they were hoisting flags in the northeast, la ilaha illallah, because they were calling for their agenda. But the government, in one way or the other, have tried. I'm not saying that the government succeeded 100%, but at certain stage in time, the Nigerian government have succeeded in killing some of the Boko Haram members, including the first leader of Boko Haram, Muhammad Yusuf, and some of his lieutenants in the other part of northern Nigeria, it being in Kaduna that I'm still living here. Because there are a lot of communities that they have lieutenants, but they were killed. So I don't know why these people, in fact, were not identified, were influenced by the literature, because literature contributes a lot in changing people's thought and perception, and to the extent that they are forcing them into joining Boko Haram. They don't kill anybody. They debated, and when they debated, people understand their ideology, they get away from it. But they join Muhammad Yusuf. But this is someone who will come to you aggressively and take over a state government house. Was trying to take over a state government house. And he was killing people. Those who refused to follow him, he killed them. What is the difference there? You know why? It is because Nnamdi Kanu's movement and he himself do not answer Muslim names. That's why he's not a terrorist. Today, if he answers a Muslim name and he called his movement with a terminology or any connotation of being a Muslim ideology, he will be labeled as a terrorist.
All right. Thank you so much. It's been a very interesting conversation, but unfortunately, we have to go. I mean, at the end of the day, while we can argue about whether this is a national or a sectoral crisis, the reality is that innocent citizens are dying in masses. And so we need this government, I mean, our government officials and our leaders, to take off focus from the terminologies, but to actually respond to this geometrically progressing insecurity. That's a wrap on today's episode of On Rights, Crime and Justice. A very many thanks to my guests for bringing those very interesting insights to the program. I'm Tonio Gubanjo. It's bye for now.